let's jump right in. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into some absolutely groundbreaking psychological research to figure out how time and money actually impact your daily well-being. Because as it turns out, we've kind of been measuring happiness all wrong for decades. Seriously, today we're looking at data that completely redefines what a good life even is. And more importantly, how you can actually design your days to achieve it.
To kick things off, I want you to ask yourself this question right now. All things considered, how satisfied are you with your life as a whole these days? Seems like a standard survey question, right? Well, it's actually exactly how scientists mistakenly measured happiness for years. Millions of people answered minor variations of this exact prompt. But there's a massive, glaring problem with it, and it leads us straight to a pretty fascinating psychological discovery.
See, researchers eventually realized this question only speaks to your remembering self. That's the part of you that evaluates your life overall, looking back on your achievements, your status, the big picture. But here's the catch. The remembering self is a notoriously flawed witness. It completely ignores your experiencing self. That's the part of you that actually lives your life, minute by minute, feeling the joy, the stress, or even just the plain boredom of a random Tuesday afternoon. If we want to understand true well-being, we literally have to look at the experiencing self. So what actually makes this experiencing self happy? Well, researchers hypothesized that objective happiness is simply spending your time in a state of flow. Take this idea, for example. Helen is happy if she spends her time doing things she'd rather continue than stop. Think about a time you were totally absorbed in a task, or so hooked on a great book or a puzzle that you actively resisted being pulled away. That right there, that resistance to interruption, that is the true sign of objective happiness.
But how on earth do you actually measure something like that? At first, researchers tried experience sampling, basically programming cell phones to beep at random times and asking people, hey, how do you feel right now? But constantly pinging people was way too expensive and honestly super annoying. So instead, the team invented the day reconstruction method, or DRM. It's a 3-step process. You relive the previous day in detail. You break it up into short episodes like scenes in a movie, and then you rate the intensity of your feelings for each specific scene. It turns out this is a highly accurate way to map out how people actually feel as they go about their day.
Part 1, the misery metric, measuring daily pain. Okay, to put a number on this, the researchers created what they call the U index. It's a totally objective metric showing exactly what percentage of our day is spent feeling, well, miserable. An episode is classified as unpleasant if a negative feeling like anger, shame, or loneliness actually outranks all the positive feelings you have in that specific moment. So if you spend 4 hours of a 16-hour waking day in this unpleasant state, your U index is 25%. Now, what the data reveals here is a pretty staggering inequality when it comes to emotional pain. You'd probably think everyone just has a moderately bad part of their day, right? But actually, about half the population goes an entire day with 0 unpleasant episodes. 0! Meanwhile, a significant minority does the vast majority of the suffering. And this is usually tied to physical or mental illness, a person's natural temperament, or just dealing with personal tragedies. So, what specific daily activities are driving our U index up? Well, looking at the data for American women, the morning commute is the absolute most unpleasant part of the day, hitting 29%. No huge surprise there, right? That's followed pretty closely by work at 27%. But here's the real shocker. Childcare actually comes in at a remarkably high 24%. On the flip side, the pleasant activities reveal a few surprises of their own. Believe it or not, housework actually has a lower misery score than childcare, sitting right at 18%. Moving further down the list to the fun stuff, socializing and watching TV are tied at 12%, and bringing up the rear, having the absolutely lowest misery score, is sex at just 5%. But wait, let's back up to that childcare stat for a second, because the researchers dug into it and found a fascinating nuance. The data actually highlights a massive cultural difference here. It turns out French women enjoy childcare significantly more than American women do. For American moms, childcare is statistically slightly less enjoyable than doing the dishes or folding laundry. Wow. But French mothers, who actually spend less total time with their kids, extract way more joy from it. Why? Well, it's very likely because French women generally have better access to childcare and spend way less of their afternoons playing unpaid chauffeur. And there's another striking cultural difference, this time around eating. Both French and American women spend the exact same amount of time eating every day. But for the French, eating is the focal activity. It's the main event. Americans, on the other hand, are chronic multitaskers. We combine eating with working, driving, watching TV, and because of that, our pleasure from the food is completely diluted. It proves a really vital point. You actually have to pay attention to an experience to enjoy it.
Part 2, money and happiness. The wealth paradox.
So does money buy happiness? The data is incredibly clear that poverty doesn't just make life hard, it actively amplifies both physical and emotional pain. Just to put it in perspective, if a financially comfortable person gets a headache, the proportion of those reporting sadness and worry jumps from 19% to 38%. But for the poorest tenth of the population, a simple headache causes their sadness and worry to skyrocket to a staggering 70%. Being poor literally makes the other misfortunes of life feel exponentially worse.
Which brings us to a very highly debated number, $75,000. According to hundreds of thousands of daily surveys, this is the satiation level. It's the household income beyond which your experienced well-being just stops increasing. Now, sure, this number might fluctuate a bit depending on inflation or the cost of living in your specific city, but the underlying psychological principle remains absolutely rock solid.
And this right here is the wealth paradox. Earning more than $75,000 definitely satisfies your remembering self's desire for achievement. You feel more successful looking back. But the average increase to your daily moment-to-moment emotional experience? It's precisely zero. In fact, higher income seemingly robs you of the ability to enjoy small, simple pleasures. There's even a crazy study showing that just priming college students with the idea of wealth literally reduces the visible pleasure on their faces when they eat a piece of chocolate. How wild is that?
Part 3, designing happiness. Actionable steps.
All right, so what do we actually do with all this? The easiest way to increase your happiness is to take control of your time by actively lowering your U index. Take a hard look at your schedule. Can you reduce that nasty morning commute? Can you swap out passive leisure, mindlessly scrolling on your phone or binging TV for active hobbies? And absolutely most importantly, you have got to prioritize spending time with people whose company you actually enjoy. As the researchers put it, it is only a slight exaggeration to say that happiness is simply the experience of spending time with people you love. According to the Gallup data, next to being completely pain-free, the single strongest predictor of a good day was simply whether or not you had contact with friends or relatives. We are deeply, fundamentally social creatures, and our experiencing self draws a massive amount of joy from real connection.
So, as you look at how your schedule is shaping up for tomorrow, I want to leave you with this one question. Are you spending your time building a shiny resume purely for your remembering self, constantly chasing income well beyond the point of satiation? Or are you actually designing a happy, connected, and truly present life for your experiencing self? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go out there and design a genuinely better tomorrow.